thrown around. Who is Kilmar Abrego-Garcia? What's the new information that has been revealed? And then what is due process? I really would like to know myself, but I feel like there's a lot of fundamental questions about our immigration system here. And I'd also like to give a quick welcome. There may be some new people joining us, hopefully here live, because our viral star of the show, Erica, made a great video about the New York Times interview with Father James Martin. It was incredible. Even got Josh to click. I think you said.
I did.
So
I did.
That's right.
For those new, this is a show we do about politics, faith, culture. We have a little bit of fun the whole time, bring you up and keep you informed. So welcome to the show if you're new. Shout out to all the livers here Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Eastern time, 11 a.m. So I'd say you got any other comments on Erica's stardom, Josh, or should we get into the show?
You'd better.
I mean, I tell you, you might be looking at the beginnings of a true multimedia, multi-platform star, Erica Ahern. Well done.
We need to make a promise right now that you won't forget about us, Erica.
Oh, come on. No.
Your newfound fame will...
team effort. No, this was like...
I told you.
It was
great.
I
told you I clicked on it, Erica, and then I found out it was an hour long, and I wasn't in it, so then I stopped listening. It was great. So.
An hour long, listen to women explaining about the church. Yeah, okay, but it was fun. We had a good time.
Okay. It was great.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks.
Josh teasing, an integral part of the show. Okay, so let's get now into the new information revealed about Kilmar, and I'm going to get into a little bit of background on Kilmar himself to just be a good refresher. But before we get into that, the new information revealed is that we now have a second, and we have an audio recording of Abrego-Garcia's wife in court in 2020. She was seeking a protective order. She says that he repeatedly hit her. She has video evidence of her injuries, and when she called out to a neighbor for help, he grabbed her hair and slapped her. This is the second of this type of thing. This is definitely, I think, hitting into the sweet Maryland father narrative put forth by Democrats. Some are even saying maybe even besides the point. I mean, all of this is just extra information released by DHS. Is he where he should be? But this is what was revealed. And I'm not even really going to play the audio. You can listen to it. It's really hard to listen to.
Yeah.
Domestic abuse is horrific. And this just seems like a terrible situation. I think they said they eventually handled this in therapy or something like that, all while he was here illegally in the country. So I'm going to get into a little bit of background for those who've just heard his name thrown around a ton and don't know the full story. So Kilmar was born in El Salvador. He's an El Salvador national still. And he illegally entered the United States in 2011 at age 16. He crossed near McAllen, Texas, and he settled in Maryland where he lived with his brother, a U.S. citizen. So in 2019, this is where he was first arrested in Prince George's County, Maryland, outside of a Home Depot, reportedly in the company of others suspected of gang affiliation. I'll get a little bit more into those charges, but that is where this all starts. So at a bond hearing, he basically made an asylum claim, and you can't make an asylum claim if you've been in the country for more than a year. And at that point, he had already been in the country for multiple years. So two judges actually denied his bail, at his bond hearing, denied bail, because they said he had sufficient evidence of gang membership. And then the second judge after the appeal upheld this. So during the 2019 hearings, him and his lawyer switched the strategy from an asylum claim to claiming that he feared returning to El Salvador because his family had a pupusa business and they were being extorted by, I believe they said it was Barrio 19. I'm not positive, another gang. And so an immigration judge, David M. Jones, granted him withholding of removal status, barring deportation to El Salvador due to what he deemed to be a credible fear of persecution from gang violence. Note, this isn't saying that he could stay in the country. Actually, they did approve that he could be deported to other countries, just not El Salvador, was what that judge ruled in 2019. So fast forward to March 15, 2025, he was deported by ICE based on gang charges. This came especially after Trump had an executive order targeting gangs such as MS-13, and he was sent to El Salvador's SCOTUS maximum security prison. And then actually, so Democrats started taking trips out there, using him as kind of a martyr case. Taxpayer funded. And we'll get into more of these trips. It's insane. But Chris Van Hollen, he's a Democrat from Maryland, met with him in El Salvador, and he reported that he was no longer in SCOTUS, but he was in another prison outside of San Salvador. So since then, judges have tried to say, hey, you need to go get him back. And then the United States is like, he's in El Salvador. We can't go violate another country's sovereignty. It's up to them to return him. And even if they did return him, we would deport him again because he's not here legally. So I'd say the two main narratives here right now just take a broad picture. Democrats have turned him into this martyr, with them and their lawyers describing him as a, quote, Maryland father in the original Atlantic expose piece, claiming there wasn't strong enough evidence that he is a gang member and that he should get, quote, due process. And I want to get into what due process is. It's a moving goalpost, but at least what they say it is. So the Trump administration and the Department of Homeland Security are saying their evidence for his gang membership include, in the 2019 police report, an informant claimed he was a low-level Checo member of the Westerns clique, allegedly based in New York, though he never lived there. There's debates about how much time he spent there, if he was there at all. During his 2019 arrest, police linked him to MS-13 symbols, wearing the Bulls hat, his tattoos. He specifically had tattoos on his knuckles, that marijuana leaf, smiley face, a cross, and a skull. So the cross and skull could potentially be covering up for what was previously 1-3. That's a common thing that MS-13 members have tattooed on their bodies. In a 2022 traffic stop, which this also came out semi-recently, it was interpreted as human trafficking. So he was in Tennessee, and while he was driving a convicted human trafficker's vehicle with 8 people with no luggage in it, and he was taking a trip from Texas to Maryland. I have body cam footage of this event. It is wild. He actually pretended to know less English than he did know. No one in the car had driver's licenses. There's no luggage. The police officer was like, this has got to be trafficking. There's no other explanation. So that's another thing, ding against him here.
Well, and the police call to ask basically ICE like what they should do with these guys. And of course, we're under the Biden administration at that point, and they tell him to let him go. Like just let him go. Let him. And you're like, wait, what if these 8 people? And the footage is crazy. You're looking at all the people in the back. They have these like blank, terrified stares, and like no one's talking. And Kilmar's shooting the breeze in like very broken English, which, like you said, in the courtroom, he doesn't have the very broken English as much. And so
it's almost like he was lying. That's so crazy.
And the Biden administration, they're like, just let it go. No problem. Like, this is what we were dealing with. This is just one of millions or thousands probably of stops like this.
Is Biden the worst president in the United States ever? I think so.
Yeah, I think it's becoming clear.
I think he's
strong case.
You hear this stuff and it's like
strong contender.
So I think this is the video that actually convinced me to potentially do this segment. Yes, we have new information, but I'm really fascinated with what true due process here is at this point, because we've already had a couple run-ins with judges here. Multiple run-ins with the law. He's been in the country illegally for how many years now? It's over a decade.
He's had a lot of processing, right? Multiple court appearances.
Here's
stops.
Here's Stephen Miller, and I mean, you can just tell he loves doing this.
You talk about due process. The Biden administration made the decision to give extensive due process to 2 trained Nicaragua terrorists that were apprehended at the border just a couple years ago. They were 2 gentlemen. They were from Venezuela. They were members of Trained Nicaragua. The Biden administration Border Patrol apprehended them and made the decision to provide them with extensive due process, put them onto a program known as supervised release, and put them on ankle monitors so that they could go through a lengthy legal judicial determination as to whether these legal aliens who had just set foot on U.S. soil might want to live in the United States for the rest of their lives. What was the result of that decision? What was the result of that choice that was made? Those 2 men kidnapped a young girl named Jocelyn Ungary from her family. They beat her. They sexually assaulted her. They tortured her. They stripped her. They murdered her, and they dumped her body. That is what the Biden administration's policy was. Most of your papers never covered her story when it happened. To the extent that you covered it at all, it was because President Trump forced you to cover it by highlighting it repeatedly over and over again. He had to shame you into covering it. And each and every one of you that sides over and over again with these MS-13 terrorists, to the extent that you have the financial means to do so, you all choose to live in condos or homes or houses as far away from these kinds of gangbangers as you possibly can. If I offered any one of you a rent-free home with no taxes to pay in any of these gang neighborhoods, and I said your neighbors are MS-13 terrorists or Mexican mafia or Sinaloa cartel or Trained Nicaragua, I couldn't pay you to live there. But yet you, with your coverage, are trying to force innocent Americans to have these people as their neighbors, and that one day their daughter may be abducted from their home and raped and murdered. So you're not going to get an ounce of sympathy from this administration or President Trump for the terrorists who've invaded our homes and our country.
Preach.
Yeah, basically what we're saying is we want the same deportation policy that Martha's Vineyards has.
Is it too much to ask?
48 hours, you're gone.
48 hours. This is great. Bye-bye. They left with love, though. They left with a lot of love.
And clapping. There was clapping.
And clapping.
They're
right.
proud of themselves, you know.
Right.
Don't forget that.
Martha's Vineyard
They were the true champions. They were the,
unshakably proud of itself. More ways than just that.
Do you give... Okay, because obviously I have very strong thoughts about this, as I'm sure you guys do too. I see the best argument against this is that this argument of due process. He didn't receive the proper process to be in front of a judge and get to plead his case for as to why he's not MS-13, why he should be in the country here illegally, and that the one place he couldn't be sent was El Salvador. So are you sympathetic to this at all, Josh? What would you say to those due process arguments?
Not sympathetic. First of all, he had process. I mean, that's what Eric was saying. He had been through court several times anyway. And again, you get to these situations where if someone is apprehended, we discover that they're in the country illegally, and then we start to deport them. People are like, well, they need due process. It's like, well, wait a minute now. Why? You're here illegally. It's like, well, you know, what if they're seeking asylum? You seek asylum at the port of entry. Not if you just happen to get caught somewhere in the interior of the country, like in Indiana or Pennsylvania or something like that. That's not how it works. You have to declare asylum at a port of entry as you enter our country. Not like, oh, you caught me? Whoops, my bad. I'd like asylum. No, not how it works. Not cool.
Yeah. And I think the point there too is there is a process. And does the system need reform? And does it need work? Yes, absolutely. Like we just had 4 years of everything being blown up because we had 12,000 a day coming across. I mean, this was insane. And of course the system needs work, but there is process, like Josh said, for claiming asylum. There is a process for coming here legally. Does it need work? Yes, but to point to these gang members, to someone like Kilmar as our martyr, right? And the left is just like falling all over themselves, sending, brave and stunning Democrats down to El Salvador to see him and like have drinks with him at a nice like restaurant table.
Yeah,
whatever.
Did you hear about where they stayed?
No.
There's 4 Democrats that they actually recorded videos for their constituents in a Hilton in El Salvador, which is their luxury hotel.
I mean,
this was about the time
really
when Hakeem Jeffries said, we are not doing any more trips to El Salvador.
Yeah, the House Minority Leader put the kibosh on this. Like, the thing is, once you get into a sense of leadership, and Pelosi is sort of helping him do this. Well, Pelosi, unfortunately, was one of the greatest congressional leaders.
She was undoubted,
effective,
even though I hate her. But Hakeem is like, he's running an enterprise. He's running a multi-billion-dollar enterprise in terms of like basically the Democrats, their elections going into into next year, and they probably got the polling back in the Salvador stuff. Like, we're not doing this anymore. This is totally terrible.
Yeah, I mean, there's a Democrat from Texas, Henry Cellular, said this is not the right issue to talk about due process. This is not the right case. This is not the right person to be saying we need to bring him back to the United States. Henry.
He's like the most conservative of the Democrats. So
right, Democrat from Texas. But if you think about it,
he gets it. But the fact that Hakeem Jeffries is like, this is bad news, that is significant.
Right.
Yeah, I guess I have like almost a deeper frustration than all of this. Is like, okay, now all of a sudden people want due process, because I was trying to look back to our immigration laws, and like the most concrete thing I could find was the Immigration and Nationality Act. I believe it was passed in the 50s. And then pretty much everything else that has been put on top of that has been executive orders and like less than congressional action.
Well, and then there's, court, where there a settlement between like the Justice Department and in court when the ACLU sues over something like that. That's how
right. Precedent, like
release,
legal precedent. And then, but in terms of congressional action, 1952, and I know the Democrats were putting
Immigration Act as well.
Yeah, but I know that Democrats are putting a stink up like, oh, we need to pass a bill, we need to pass a bill, we need to pass a bill. And then to me, like to see just the difference between two presidents, you can go from your country quite literally being invaded by military-aged men to no one passing is it speaks to the fact that there really is no true process, that the Congress has passed no law that's been processed that we all agree on that we can change.
I just have a question on this though.
Yeah.
Like we had an unprecedented invasion of like 10 million people come into our country over the last 4 years. There was no process. They weren't individually processed. The doors open and they just barged right in. And so, but you're now telling me that every single one of these persons
needs a
people, that we have to process them one at a time.
Right.
Like, I'm sorry, that's bull crap. That's the end of the country. Like, because it would take forever. By the time you got like 100,000 done, Trump's term's over. Like, I will not stand for that. I will not stand for that. And the Supreme Court and Congress need to understand that whatever you want to hold on to in terms of a republic, if you don't get this, there is going to be major societal revolt. Like, you have to respect the laws of this country and the citizens of this country. If you're telling me that one president could just open the door and let 10 million people flood into the country and the next guy can't say, yeah, we need to send them back.
Right. What are we doing? And that's my point, that there is we do have laws, we do have a process, but what we had the last 4 years blew that all out of the water. So when these people are saying in the mainstream media and the talking heads at CNN, they get on and they're all like, oh my gosh, rule of law, no one's above the law, due process. It's rich coming from this community because they've been the ones who were like, let them all in, open borders, Biden is great, Kamala Harris, borders are most effective. And you're like, really, this is really it? And I think too, I mean, coming from conservatives, there's this hue and cry about, well, even Kilmar needs his due process, et cetera. But again, and yes, absolutely, I am 100%. We need to get to a place where we are able to once again follow the processes, where our asylum system's not overwhelmed, where our border patrol agents are empowered to actually patrol the border. And that's where we're getting to. So to get hung up on, oh my gosh, the Trump administration is, they missed this one piece of paperwork for this one guy that they deported, who turns out to be a guy who beat his wife, and trafficked humans to Texas. That is, again, it's the time of day that we are at. And to get back to that, like Josh said, we have some people are saying upwards of 22 million people here illegally.
What is the impulse, though, by the senator from Maryland, Chris Van Hollen, to say, I don't have all the facts in this, but it sounds so sympathetic. I'm going to fly to this Central American country and I'm going to meet with this guy, not even sure what the deal is on this guy. Like, you're just assuming that Trump got it wrong and he's just innocent as the snow. He's so clean. I mean, like, what? I mean, I can't imagine that you're just this. What?
This is just like high school level community theater, political theater. This is like the worst.
When you talk about a big gamble, Hollywood I mean, like the left, they believe their own damn press releases. Like, what are you doing? Like, just take a beat.
There's two groups of people that it does not surprise me are beating the drum on this. One would be the CNN pundits, right? Because that's their job. And number two, the lawyers that benefited off a system. I'm frustrated with our current system as it exists. I expect their lawyer to defend them, right? They're going to get out in public. They're going to say this man's innocent. He's not on MS-13. He should be back in the country. They're going to make their money. They're going to do their job. Like, that's our legal system here. You have two sides. But the fact that we do have a system in which two separate judges affirmed someone's MS-13 membership and said he did not file proper asylum, he's been here longer, and we didn't remove him from the country. Like, our system so clearly is broken if that is not handled right away. And before you get into that, Josh, like, we're talking about someone that is now, we know about twice, beat his wife, trafficked people in the country, and who knows what else he's been a part of. It's very common for MS-13 members to try to disguise their tattoos, or when they get in jail, change them or whatever. This is the big case, it's the martyr case that's being put up. How many other cases of people have we seen that we didn't get information?
I got to tell you,
that live in communities and terrorize people. And that's our current system, right? Is like, we can't get them out of the country
because
we now
these
need to have this
district
due
judges,
process. Something's
national
wrong.
injunctions. I got to say, if I were Elon Musk and I had billions of money to blow, I would totally start an organization in Maryland that just pummeled Van Hollen all day, every day, twice a day, and 10 times on Sunday, and just beat the senator from MS-13, Chris Van Hollen, and just put posters up all over the place with MS-13 all over his face and everything. Just pummel this guy and let people know this is what Democrats support.
Mm-hmm. I saw a statistic this morning. It was going through the headlines with Kilmar the last month, and then going through headlines with Elon Musk. And these were from, CNN. I think they included Fox, though, too. They had CNN, MSNBC, NBC. And it was 96% of the coverage of Kilmar was positive for Kilmar Abrego-Garcia, and 96% of the headlines mentioning Musk were negative.
Right.
This is what we're working with.
Pete Hegseth complained about it too because he got 100%. But it's like, you know what, bro, you deserve some negative publicity because you done stepped in it. But like Musk, that's a good example. Maybe you don't like that he's cutting government so much, but the guy did happen to rescue a couple of our astronauts from space.
You could have given him at least a positive there.
Throw him a
Maybe that
here,
was the 4%, Mercer. Huh? Maybe that was his 4% positive.
Yeah, right.
But I actually went back. I feel, because you know what? I see Catholics argue against this, and I actually saw some Catholic counsels well, they should just bring him back and put him in front of a judge and follow due process or whatever. And I cannot disagree harder with this assumption. And I actually was going back and I was trying to think about how can I get into this on a deeper, more philosophical level. And I actually see this as a big problem with kind of this soft modern Christianity that's all about, well, Jesus forgave, right? So we need to be gentle. We need to forgive everyone. And I went back to the boy Thomas Aquinas on his Summa on punishment. And I've been thinking a lot about this because I think this is just a missing element to kind of the soft modern Christianity that I see argued on behalf of people like this. And the purpose of punishment, what is the purpose of punishment, right? We are punishing this man for entering the country illegally because he committed a crime against the common good. The point of punishment is within the framework of justice and the common good. So one, restoration of justice. Punishment corrects the disorder caused by sin or crime. By committing an offense, a person disrupts the moral and social order, and punishment serves to restore balance, either by reforming the offender or satisfying justice. One or the other, right? It doesn't have to reform. You need to keep the moral order of society. I cannot think about a more lawless, disordered society in which there are literal gang members taking advantage of our justice system. Number two, deterrence, which I think people forget about often. Punishment aims to deter future wrongdoing, both by the offender and others in society.
Ding, ding, ding.
By imposing penalties, it discourages similar acts, protecting.
Stephen Miller is big on that one. He says,
by the way, that's why people don't spit their gum out in Singapore.
Oh,
exactly. Well, right, but you can. But I can't think of a better line to draw of for deterrence than, I don't know, gang members sneaking in and murdering Americans. Yeah. Right? I don't.
We need to
want
deter this.
People sneaking into my country and murdering fellow citizens, or even just robbing people of simpler injustices or destroying the moral order. And that, I think, is one of the biggest problems I have with the open borders, let everyone in, take as much asylum as possible, is these are real damages to a moral order that we have in society, that a nation actually has a duty to uphold, that we've truly just been deprived of over the last 4 years, and then told everything was fine, which is even worse on top of all of it.
And you're racist.
So,
but you're onto something, Tom, that the fuel for a lot of this reaction that we're getting from so many fellow Christians is this notion in modern Christianity, and it's not just for Catholicism. It's evangelicals have this big time, obviously mainline do, Protestants do, this idea that mercy, mercy, mercy without justice. You know what I mean? And it's what are you talking about? And I always feel like the reason why we have this and why it's so prevalent, has spread so fast amongst Christians in the West, is there's a lot of guilt. We are a very affluent society. Now, I am not affluent. I with 6 kids, you know how it goes. It's expensive. So I have a 15-year-old Suburban. But there's a lot of Christians who live in this affluent suburban kind of lifestyle, and they go to Disneyland and every year or whatever it is, and they feel kind of guilty about how they have to look for problems in life. Mm-hmm. They have no financial needs or concerns really to speak of. They still feel like they got to catch up with the Joneses. And so they really feel this guilt, like they won life's lottery. And and so I feel like a lot of this, the treatment of how we express ourselves in society today, there's a lot of people in sort of a Christian, soft, mercy only Christianity that really feel like, gosh, I don't know, we shouldn't do the death penalty, or we should be nice to people and all this stuff. Cut them some slack because they feel guilty about themselves. Like, you know what? Why don't you just shut up?
Well, and I think too, the modern notion of mercy, like you said, it's very misunderstood. And I talk about this in the video where I'm looking at Ross Douthat and Father James Martin, because obviously Pope Francis, Pope of Mercy. We have to remember that the Christian notion of mercy is aimed at eternal salvation. The horizon is not like, oh, okay, I'm going to have a good, comfortable life and like never feel uncomfortable. That's not how that's not the aim of God's mercy necessarily. Although, we want to work for people to have material comfort and, the needs of life and all that. But the horizon is beyond this life when we talk of Christian mercy, which is why you can't have mercy without justice. And that's like, you look at Aquinas's purposes of punishment here. It's restoration of justice, which is mercy to the people in the community that have been hurt by the sin or the
directly and indirectly,
transgression,
yes.
right? And then deterrence, that is mercy to future generations. And then, of course, reformation of the offender, that is mercy. So it's in the execution of justice through just punishment that mercy is meted out to everyone involved in the crime, right? We're not just saying, oh, we need mercy, so we have to let all these guys stay in the country for 2 years while we have a process. That's not merciful to the 300,000 children who are being sex trafficked in our country right now. It's unjust. So yes, I agree with you, Josh. This sort of like watered down, impotent view of mercy is actually the opposite of what it pretends to be.
Yeah,
we need
and I guess I would
novena to divine justice.
I was speaking to that to people that I actually find to be in good faith, but maybe a little queasy with it.
Mm-hmm.
I think the one group I have no tolerance for are people that have nothing but disdain for Christianity and hate for the Bible and my views, that like to use that. Oh, what would Jesus do?
What would
mercy,
Jesus do?
forgiveness.
Like, I didn't know you believed in Jesus. But that's
you get zero airtime, right? Like all of a sudden you're so fascinated in Christianity when it comes to advancing your political ends. But yeah, so I say we move on at that point.
All right.
It's that cartoon of like, I don't believe in the Bible, but I feel like you do, so I want to weaponize it against you.
Totally.
I mean, it has no effect on me. But
what is it? Rules for radicals: never be constrained to the rules you put for your enemy, or something like that. Saul Alinsky, rule number 4. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, very Marcuse.
Okay, speaking of, so we had a very interesting Supreme Court case, oral arguments. It was actually over a Catholic charter school, and this was in the Diocese of Tulsa in eastern Oklahoma. This could have broad implications. I want to get into the school voucher talk. I want to get into government intervention. We had a good question from an audience member on this. But Erica, if you could start, what was this SCOTUS hearing over, and where do you think they're going to lean on this?
Yeah, so this is another big one. Oklahoma Governor Stitt, he said this is the biggest religious freedom and education case in U.S. history, and I think you might be right. This is a St. Isidore of Seville Catholic virtual school, which is an online program for Catholics, for anyone really. It's open to, but it has certain requirements when you sign up for the school that, your children, you are going to go to Mass and you're practicing the faith and all this. So this school applied to be included in Oklahoma's very generous school choice program. And after some approval, there were some challenges. It seemed like it was going to go through, but ultimately the Oklahoma Supreme Court said no. This would be the state funding and creating. It would be a state entity that is funding, and it's religious establishment. So it violates the Establishment Clause. The court, they challenged it. The Supreme Court agreed to hear it, which was fantastic. And of course, this week we had the actual oral arguments. Interesting note, just quickly, Amy Coney Barrett recused herself from the case the day before oral arguments. She, it turns out, is really close friends with their family are friends with one of the founding board members of the school. The woman's no longer actually on the board, apparently, but because of that close relationship, Coney Barrett recused herself, making it possible that we could end up with a split court 4-4 decision here if all of the liberal justice. I don't think so either, because this seems pretty clear.
What would happen if it was a split decision, by the way?
It fails.
It just fails.
Yeah.
The case fails, and it goes back.
4-4 decision is the same as a 4 in favor and 5 against. It's the same thing. It fails. You need a majority.
Okay. Yeah. So at heart, this case, these arguments were raising questions about the application of the First Amendment, the Establishment Clause, the state shall establish no religion, and the Free Exercise Clause in the context of charter schools. So one of the central questions is, are charter schools that are receiving money because parents have decided this school is where I want my child to go, this is where we would like to spend the money that the state has given us as parents to spend under our discretion, are those charter schools, because the money is coming to them through this voucher program, are they now state actors, right? And if so, does permitting a religious charter school, in this case a Catholic charter school, constitute government endorsement of religion? Yes. So again, like you said, Josh, all the signs are pointing to a favorable ruling for St. Isidore. Even the Wall Street Journal editors, they were pointing to recent precedents with the court. And this is going to be important when we address the all-consuming question of should Catholic schools receive school voucher money. But we had Trinity Lutheran in 2017 when the justices said that Missouri can't deny grant money for playground resurfacing to a church-run preschool. They also pointed to Espinoza in 2020 and Carson in 2022. Where the court in both cases said families given state money to attend private schools have a right to choose religious options.
Yep.
Now, arguing for Oklahoma was State Attorney General Gentner Drummond. What a name, Gentner. I should rename my seventh child.
Governor, not a fan.
Okay, thumbs down, because Drummond said,
thumbs down,
quote, federal law and the laws of 46 states, including Oklahoma, define charter schools as public schools. They are free, open to all, subject to anti-discrimination laws, created and funded by the state, and subject to continuing government regulation. Therefore, religious schools can't take dollars designated for charter schools. On the flip side, St. Isidore's argues, the state didn't design this school. And remember, when you bring a case to the Supreme Court, it has to be very, very carefully defined. It has to be a very specific question. And they just said, look, that you have to look at this actual situation. The state did not design the school, did not create or encourage St. Isidore's religious character. It did not appoint any member of the board. It did not design the curriculum. The state doesn't hire or supervise the school's teachers or administrators. All the public funding is tied to, in this case, is enrollment, is to the parent's choice. Therefore, you are not funding or you're establishing religion.
Right. It'd be going straight to the students, not the school.
Yeah. It's going to the students, and the parents have the right to decide where their students go. And it's not the state's money. It's the parents' money.
Right. But ultimately, yeah, exactly. Ultimately, the idea is that the system you created in the state of Oklahoma is to allow any kind of school to open up and receive these students who get this funding for them. You can't exclude religious schools from being one of the schools that can receive it. So, if you say public school can receive it, a private secular school can receive it, but, sorry, not you because you're religious.
Because you're Catholic.
That is what Kavanaugh, as he asked, it sounds like that's rank discrimination.
Yeah, we should play that clip if we have time, Tom.
Yeah.
So,
Kavanaugh.
I mean, the prediction here is, I guess since Coney Barrett is not, she's
out.
Right. What's the word again?
Recused.
It's going to be 5-3.
All the religious school is saying is don't exclude us on account of our religion. I mean, if you go and apply to be a charter school and you're an environmental studies school, or you're a science-based school, or you're a Chinese immersion school, or you're a English grammar-focused school, you can get in. And then you come in and you say, oh, we're a religious school. It's like, oh, no, can't do that. That's too much. That's scary. We're not going to do that. And our cases have made very clear, and I think those are some of the most important cases we've had, of saying you can't treat religious people and religious institutions and religious speech as second class in the United States. And when you have a program that's open to all comers except religion, no, we can't do that. We can do everything else. That seems like rank discrimination against religion. And that's the concern that I think you need to deal with here.
Mm-hmm.
I like beer. Shout out Kev.
I do love Kavanaugh. Love that guy.
I like him.
Well put. Well put.
I mean, and John Roberts, there's so many conservatives that don't like him, but on this particular issue of religious freedom, John Roberts is awesome, and so is Kavanaugh, and obviously the Gorsuch and Alito and Thomas are good. So, I mean, I would actually be truly stunned if we lost this one.
Especially given the precedent of those last two cases.
I guess just to be technical, what I said before, just to if it goes down 4-4, you can have another case later that could come that she wouldn't have to recuse herself, and it would be 5-4. So 4-4 is sort of like, it doesn't set a precedence. It just doesn't. You don't win, obviously, because it's a tie. So it's slightly different than if you had actually, quote, lost. So
Josh, we have a question actually specifically for you on school vouchers. And we do know you're not wearing your bolo today. You're not going to be in Texas for Governor Abbott signing the school voucher program.
Big doings.
I was invited, but I couldn't make it.
But I will say there's a decent split between a very Catholic audience on supporting these vouchers and other people saying government interference. So I'm going to read the question for you and hear what you have to say. Hi, I'm a faithful listener. Very much enjoy the show. Thanks for all you do. I'm currently listening to your show about federal funding in schools. This is a topic I've been very interested in following. My husband and I are supporters of Hillsdale College because of the fact that they do not accept federal funding. I am also a supporter of school choice, but I have several concerns with the program lately that are affecting my family personally. I'm concerned that this program is mixing state and federal funds, much like you were discussing with the Ivy League schools like Harvard. I understand school choice as the tax dollars that we are paying anyway should follow the child to the school of choice. This is a simple explanation, but correct? ? Could school choice lead to more government overreach in our schools? Perhaps you could explain to me the differences. I live in Indiana. Currently in Indiana, school choice vouchers are based on family size and income. I am not a, quote, trad wife, and our income disqualifies us from receiving vouchers. Our Catholic school has raised tuition every year since the school choice program has been implemented in Indiana. The family's tuition next year is going up $3,000. This and some other factors has us considering sending our children to public school or other options. It is disheartening to work hard and continually be punished for your hard work. I feel that very personally. I am a surgeon. I believe God put me in this vocation to improve others. I am told Indiana is considering, quote, universal choice, meaning the state may get rid of the income limitations. Right. Do you know if there are any ceilings on the amounts school receive from these school choice programs, or is my tuition just going to keep going up? I assume it varies state to state. I appreciate your thoughts or comments.
I don't think it'll keep going up. I mean, I think it's still based on market conditions. Now, of course, before Indiana had school choice and schools just had to compete, they would have to try to offer, education, private education that might be subsidized by the parish. But the sticker price that they had, they always had to be aware of the fact that families are paying tax dollars to support the government schools, and then they're basically paying for education twice. So their tuition level, they had to try to do everything they could to keep that lower. Now, you're right. Now that they have vibrant school choice in Indiana, that's accessible to everyone except for, as you know, the income limitations. What that's done is it's made the 80% of the families in Indiana able to just say, well, I got the voucher, here you go. And the school can be like, boy, after 20, 30, 40 years of scraping the barrel and not being able to do anything and having to work all these extra fundraisers and pay our teachers the lowest wages, maybe we can increase their wages, not have to do $1 trillion fundraisers, and just do the work that we're doing and raise the price to meet this voucher thing. And most people won't feel the pain because they're just getting their tax dollars applied in a voucher. You are bringing up a really interesting conundrum, though, in that you are outside the income limit. Let me tell you, this is something that yours truly understands because, now that my income has finally gone up after 20 years of grinding it out in this organization, now I got kids in college, private Catholic college. I got kids in private Catholic high school, private Catholic, middle school, and they're all 3 different schools. Right. And it's not like I'm getting a bonus for all 6 at the same place or something like that. And I'm like, I still have a 15-year-old Suburban. Not really, like, the money comes in and it goes right out. But I would say in this case particular, I would highly recommend that you go to the principal or to the parish priest if it's associated with your parish and just walk them through the scenario and try. And I always try as best as I can in these kind of situations to level with them and help them understand that you see it as they see it as well. Like, what's great about the voucher program is that now it's so much more accessible to so many more families, and our school has got so many more people who are just truly valuing Catholic education, and then raising the price on tuition 20 years ago might have been really painful, because then, gosh, families say I can't afford it anymore. But now it's maybe a little bit easier for you guys to raise it because you just got the voucher price. But then you could say, but my husband and I, in this case, for your case, our situation is we have that cap. Our income is higher than that. And so we don't get the voucher at all. And so, and it's not like we're Elon Musk here. So every time you're raising it, it's cutting into our food budget. It's cutting into vacation stuff. And we're like, maybe we can't afford this anymore. I would just go, I totally understand the circumstances of the school, but is there any way that you would allow us to pay, this lower rate? And you just
grandfather in,
would it be possible? And whatever that price is. So let's say, can I pay, $2,500 per kid or whatever? And that way you're not forcing, a family to have to make a hard decision about having to leave the school because we like the school. And if you say it to them like that, like, I'm not asking it for free, but I would just, I think I would be surprised if the school was not open to a request like that. So that, and then and then you say, hey, and if these lawmakers, these dunderheads finally get their act together and remove these, income caps, then it's a whole other ballgame. But, until then, that's what I would recommend.
So I actually did some research on this because I think it's a fascinating question. Personally, I think the approach is, well, look what FAFSA did to college tuition prices, right? Like, everything's through the roof. The government offered people X amount of money, and then all the colleges just increased by that much. So I think it's reasonable to think that. But so Heritage actually did a study on the impacts of schools, and a few interesting points they found. One, it makes a big difference whether or not they're targeted voucher programs or universal voucher programs. So if it's targeted for people that are in lower income, it actually does impact it less. They also found that it matters whether or not your state was an always choice state or they always had the voucher program for X period of time, as opposed to a new one. So what you're saying, Josh, is like all of these schools operating in no voucher states, they're operating off the slimmest of margins, right? And all of a sudden these vouchers happen, so they get the opportunity. I know. Right. So, but for states that had a lot, so they actually found that always choice states with choice programs before 2013 and 14, tuition increased by 15%, but that's compared to the 28% in never choice states. Also, I believe certain actually increase or
so you're saying like states
deflation.
Like Indiana, which had choice and expanded it, the increase in tuition rates was overall in that state was still lower than a state like Michigan that never had choice. The tuition has gone up and up. Yeah, I that's interesting to see.
Yes. And then in 8 states adopting choice policies between 2013, 2014, and 2022 and 2023, average annual tuition increases dropped actually 2.1% before adoption to negative 1.5% after, with some states like Kansas seeing significant declines from 8% to 4.4%. So there's actually some cases where it deflates as well, which is interesting. They were saying specifically elementary schools. It depends on the school too, like elementary school, middle school, high school. Is it a K through 8? Is it a K through 12? All of these things matter because now there's competition in between.
Sure.
But
I like that you've added some of the data to provide a picture. Of course, that's going to be across the whole state, whereas for her individual circumstance, it looks like it's different. And it could just be because that school is experiencing rapid growth and they're having to do a capital campaign or who knows why. But I would just, again, I feel like she has a great case to make to go to her pastor or the superintendent, the principal of the school. I would highly recommend that.
Agreed. It's great advice.
And then can I just get this out of the way too, because we get this all the time. It's okay, if you participate in the voucher program, then now all of a sudden you're getting government money. Therefore, you're not doing the Hillsdale deal where there's no influence over curriculum. What would you say to people with those kind of concerns?
Well, first of all, I mean, I'm a proud alumnus of Hillsdale College. Okay. Hillsdale is sort of like in a league of its own. I mean, I know there's Christendom and there's a few others do it, but like, it is a very hard road, to go down. And Hillsdale was like one of the first really. And they had the best, PR campaign, and conservatives loved it. And they have been blessed. Hillsdale gets tons of money, by the way. I appreciate the fact that this couple liked Hillsdale. It's like, you know what? I'm not trying to say no to giving to my alma mater, but like maybe give it to a Catholic school that needs a little bit more, God bless them. But no, I mean, like, again, the point I would like to make is like, we have a situation where like 90% of the schools K-12 in this country are controlled by the government. And over time, they've just, I would say public schools 40 years ago were very mediocre. Today, they're worse than mediocre, and they're also full of sewage. They're putting all sorts of garbage in. So to the extent that, some people say, well, if you do school choice and you liberate some of these kids out of these government schools and into private schools, the private schools might start to slide a little bit too. There's always that choice. There's always that possibility. But I would say, look, you don't need government money to corrupt things. We've had corruption in the church. We've had, lack of Catholic identity without any of that stuff. I mean, my goodness, let me tell you, you can look at it now. I still think if it goes to the parent, and the parent then chooses to send their kids there, there's less of an opportunity because they're the ones who are writing the check. There's always greater problems if it's third party. So in healthcare, you go to a Catholic hospital and they get reimbursed by the insurance company, or you get a student loan, and Georgetown gets the money or whatever. But if you're directing the money more directly in your community, I think there's less of an opportunity because the parents are right there. They're local. They're seeing what's happening in the school, and they're being guardians of it. Is it a guarantee? There's no guarantees in life. But like, we've had government control of education, 90% of the education, K-12, for well over 100 years. And it is absolutely horrendous.
Yeah.
So we got to try something to dynamite this thing up.
Right.
Experiment 100. That's a good way of putting it, Erica.
The 100-year long march has not
horrible.
Been great.
Like, what does greater harm to society? The teachers union or Planned Parenthood? It's a debatable question.
That is a great question. That would be an amazing LOOPCast debate.
No, the answer is Planned Parenthood. That's
they actually.
Really
one kills people, the other kills their souls. I mean, you tell me.
I don't know. I have complex thoughts on the teachers unions, but that's
complex for Friday.
It's
Friday
an inherency. It's a inherency argument. Like, teachers unions' inherent purpose is to represent teachers. That's it. Planned Parenthood's inherent goal is to kill children.
Yep.
Probably worse, but it's
game over. Boom.
Oh,
close.
Destroyed.
Close second.
The purpose of a system is what it does, not what it says it does, though. So, Tom, that's true.
I do. A famous LOOPCast quote. Famous Josh Mercer is.
Love that.
Ism. Okay, on to the good news. We got good news today, Erica. What are we talking about?
This was really fun. I was excited. So Trump announced the Religious Liberty Commission, which is again something that I voted for here, and we had some Catholic all-stars on this. Of course, we had on the cleric front, we have Bishop Robert Barron, Cardinal Timothy Dolan out of New York, who Trump wants to be the next pope. Probably not going to happen, y'all.
It's not the craziest thing.
It's not the craziest thing.
It's possible. Like, I would give it a
all
1
things
in
are
250.
possible.
Marco
yeah.
Rubio.
No, I mean, it's like,
okay.
It's not
1 in 50. 1 in 50. Okay, we got it. We have Josh has put in his numbers on Dolan there, and then we have Ryan T. Anderson representing the Catholic laity. I am so happy for him, and I love Ryan in particular because those of you who know the Loop's origin story know that he was the impetus for Josh Mercer to launch
Ryan
the
T.
Loop.
Was?
Oh yeah,
Ryan T.
I did
Anderson.
not know that. More Loop lore.
Yeah,
Do you
another
not read my
origin
emails?
story.
Sometimes.
Do you not read?
No, he does
You
not.
just admitted not to watching LOOPCast
NC.
content.
I watch LOOPCast.
You can't even get on me on that. You're like, I clicked an Eric and I clicked off. All right, Josh.
You're
a busy guy.
Yeah,
that's good. So I'm excited about Religious Liberty Commission. These are 3 people who were kept at bay from the White House for the last administration. Of course, Cardinal Dolan, Kamala Harris snubbed him, would not show up to the Al Smith dinner, and now they are in the White House.
Best tweet ever.
Yeah,
right?
Josh's viral tweet on maybe
That's right.
next time you should come to the Al Smith.
So I'm waiting for the Mike Lewises of Twitter to all go crazy because Bishop Barron works for Trump. But
don't worry, they're already out there.
They're out there. They're doing it. Yeah.
They prefer a time where Jesuits were hanging out with Biden at the White House. I do not.
No.
Okay, Josh.
Well, I got to say, I mean, I've been a big fan of Scott. Are we doing the good news stuff? Or are we doing the
yes, good news. Good news.
I don't. Well, whatever.
Is this your Twilight Zone?
I always forget. Now we're doing this good news.
All right. Hey, you know what? I got 2 for you, Josh. It's all good. You save that for the Twilight Zone. 1, we have a listener of the show that is offering you a free room if you would like to come to Boise for the Heterosexual Festival.
This is excellent news.
Shout out to Jeff. Jeff said, look, he's got you. You want to? I think it'd make fantastic LOOPCast content. Josh among the heteros. For those who didn't listen to last episode, there is a hetero pride festival in Boise, Idaho, and Josh has basically said he's going to go. And now Jeff's can make it happen. Like we got.
I like how you said I was going to go.
We have people in Boise.
Like, all of a sudden, I'm going.
What? Who said that? I don't know. Sources said. I have sources. Okay, and then my good news. I actually really appreciated this Matt Walsh clip. Shout out Matt Walsh. We'll see him at the Courage Under Fire Gala that we will be going to. Gala. I don't know. And he had a great clip on Tucker Carlson's podcast. Got me thinking quite a bit. Here it is.
I think I'm at the point where it's kind of like my whole ideology, my political ideology at this point is that I want my kids to go to heaven. I want my kids to go to heaven, and I want them to be good and happy people. That's what I want. So everything that we do in the home, and we're not perfect. We don't get this right perfectly, not even close to it. But everything we do in the home should be tailored towards that end, to help our kids be good and happy people. And that's also, those are the policies that I support. You know, those are my politics.
Sounds like Christian nationalism, Matt.
Guilty as charged. I'm a nationalist. I'm a Christian. So
another term I have never heard defined. Well, wow. What an interesting way to frame it. What a great way to frame it.
That was a great way to frame it. That's my political ideology.
How is no one? I feel like that was.
Why is this news? Like, of course. Like,
no,
you want your
I
kids
know,
to
but
be holy and to be joyful. Duh.
No, but yeah, it's almost so implicit. No one said it. Like he put the finger on it in saying it in that way. It's so true, and I think what I especially appreciated about it, especially in the wild west of social media and news outlets and stuff, is I feel like there's so many people that like worship a political ideology, say it be capitalism, say it be socialism, say it be this and that, and they never get beyond why that is. And to me personally, and I feel like especially after Matt said that, it's like I support policies that get my kids closer to heaven. And it's not crazy because basically what heaven is like you live according to God's teaching, you do things that are good for children according to natural law, and they grow up to hopefully be good and virtuous people and live virtuous lives and then reach heaven, like through God's grace. And whether or not that's like, you can call me a socialist, you can call me a capitalist, you can call me a lib, whatever you want to call me. Like if the end goal of whatever I support achieves that end, sign me up. But yeah, I don't know why that like oddly, it's probably because I have toddlers at home or whatever. It kind of made me like emotional thinking about it. Cause I'm just like, man, these people are going to grow up. These people are going to grow up and that's crazy to think about. And like, what am I doing here? You know, what am I talking about? Am I doing anything valuable? Am I doing what I should be? Just like opening a can of worms.
Yeah. And I think I really like to, I mean, Matt Walsh is obviously devout Catholic, really well-read guy. And to me, obviously the charges that came out against him all over the Twitterverse was, oh my gosh, theocracy. He wants to impose his religion on everybody. But as Catholics, because we have such a confidence in the union of faith and reason, you mentioned natural law and positive human law and divine law, that all these things work together for our eternal salvation, that a Catholic can be a great patriot and a devout Catholic without falling into theocracy the way that like a Puritan would have to, right? Because they're much more literal in their interpretation of the Bible. But it's a great gift that Catholics bring to whatever society we have found ourselves in throughout history, that we have this both and, that we're citizens of heaven, we're patriots of our homeland. And we can privilege our own families, but also care for the poor and our brothers and sisters wherever we find them. And I'm so grateful to be Catholic and to be able to say, yeah, my only ideology is to get souls to heaven.
I love how this didn't even move the needle for Josh because he's like, yeah, no, duh, because he is the Matt Walsh of this show. Like, you are the Matt Walsh
He's got the
correspondent
beard.
of this show. Like, yeah, whatever.
He's the Josh Mercer of his own show.
Yeah, Mercer was the OG.
Notre Dame is the Ave Maria of the Midwest. Okay. Luke, this is kind of a told you so moment. LOOPCast alumni Marco Rubio. Obviously, we springboarded him onto bigger and better things. He now has 4 jobs.
Bump.
That's right.
The LOOPCast bump, some are saying. He is now the Secretary of State, acting U.S. National Security Advisor, acting archivist of the U.S., and acting administrator of USAID. I mean, some are saying he's being talked about for the Pope. That would make 5 jobs.
He's eligible.
He is eligible. Some are saying. The reason he got this post, and I told you so, Mike Waltz quietly left his post as the U.S. National Security Advisor. For those who are not up on Mike Waltz, he was the one in hot water because he mistakenly added Jeffrey Goldberg to the Houthi PC group chat where they talked about striking Yemen. And I was like, he's going to quietly remove him in a month. I checked the watch. I'm not sure exactly what time, but pretty close. So he's removed from his position. People did say, so he did get put up as the UN ambassador by Trump.
The U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, yes.
And
which still requires Senate confirmation.
But to me,
because what they did is they took Lee Stefanik
That's-
out of there, and she's back staying in her House seat, and then now she's going to run for governor. But she can stay in her House seat while she runs for governor. So it protected the fragile House majority.
Mm-hmm.
It's all making sense now.
Yeah.
Gotta say, a bit of a demotion.
A little bit. Here's a nice
Probably.
UN ambassador.
They call it a lateral move, but it was getting kicked downstairs.
Let's okay.
It was getting walls
Sure.
out. Someone was speculating because obviously Trump. So the Goldberg thing, Goldberg at the Atlantic, he blows the Signal chat story. It's a whole kerfuffle, right? And then a few weeks later, Trump invites Goldberg to the White House.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh, what's he doing? And someone was floating the theory that he, during his meeting with Goldberg, he pulled him aside a little and was like, okay, how much is Walls really like? How much is he on the dole with you and stuff?
Yeah.
So Goldberg was like, oh, well, it's not nothing. And Trump's like, all right, Walls is out. Get him out of the cabinet.
Waltz also lied and said he had never
Maybe.
met Jeffrey Goldberg before. And then pictures came out of them speaking at the same event. And you're just like, are you serious, man? Like, why would you lie about something so obviously provable?
Here's a nice UN ambassador.
I'm kind of glad he's out, though. Too much of a neocon for my state.
Amen.
Yeah,
Amen. And
good.
Alex, someone in the chat, Alex Wong too, as well, gone. So
Yep.
Yeah, very interesting personnel moves. Okay, Erica, we have the refinery.
Yes, I'm very excited. All right, so for those of you who are not yet aware, my other job at Catholic Vote is
You also wear lots of hats.
Yeah, that's right. Lots and lots of hats. Me and Marco. We have that in common.
You're the Marco Rubio.
I'm the Marco Rubio of
LOOPCast,
LOOPCast. All right, that's all right. So we over at Refine, which is our lifestyle 3 times a week newsletter, you can sign up at refinelife.co, get all the best lifestyle content from around the web, and also our original freelancer team, which these ladies are amazing. And guys, we have a couple guys in there too. Shout out to Phineas. But we have a new guide dropping next week on Tuesday. Do not miss it. You've got to go subscribe so that you get the guide right to your inbox on Tuesday. And I'm talking to you, Pogo. I'm talking to your demographic.
My mom is in the chat right now.
Yeah, your mom's listening. Janet, I did this for you. So this is how you can give your mom the best Mother's Day of her life. We had shout out to Sarah Stark as well, our crazy great graphic designer. We were like, okay, we want to help out with Mother's Day. We want to give the guys some clues on what to do. What are we going to do? And she's like, what about the love languages? You guys familiar with the love languages? Mercer, you know what those are?
Nope.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well,
like,
you're going to find out.
They're like, their astrology for like, it's
For
basically,
Christians.
yeah.
Astrology for Christians.
Yeah.
Well, you can learn what your mom's love language is, how she best receives affection and honor and praise, which she is due for giving birth to you or adopting you, whatever the history is there, and different gift ideas, different gestures ideas, even scripting a couple of notes you could send her based on her love language. So that's our guide. It is coming out next Tuesday on Refined for subscribers. So make sure you head on over to refinelife.co and give us your email address. It's free. There is no money required. You don't have to give us a credit card or anything like that. And you can get all of this for free. So sign up. It's going to be awesome.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Twilight Zone now? Oh, the people want you to go to the Hetero Festival, by the way, Josh. We have an official.
Yeah, they're calling for you.
People are
calling.
clamoring for you to go to the Hetero Festival, and it would make fantastic content. There's no question.
We need to send Simon with a camera and Mercer with a T-shirt of some
That'd be
kind.
awesome.
We'll come up with it.
All right. So Twilight Zone, Erica. You're
I'm going first. Okay. I'm gonna go with swing and a miss. I'm gonna go because people accuse us of not criticizing Trump when he makes a misstep.
Interesting.
I'm on the fence about this. I have not processed. So we were really excited because Columbus Day is back. But then we have a new social media post saying that we are renaming Veterans Day in November as Victory Day for World War I. And we're also getting a new holiday. May 8th will now be marked as Victory Day for World War II. Now, I don't have a problem with this on the face of like, what are we celebrating?
I love it.
Focusing on? I love it, but it is so unpoetic. Can we I just Victory Day for World War I? Can we come up with something better? Like Europe has Armistice Day. That's a little bit more beautiful in language. I need a big, beautiful title.
But Armistice just says the end of hostility.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Victory. We win.
Out on that. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know.
But what about
I need a better name for this.
Isn't the fundamental problem with this that it doesn't cover veterans from other wars?
Yeah, are we going to have a
wasn't
day
initially
for every
supposed
war?
to. November 11th wasn't. It was to celebrate the end of the Great War.
Yeah.
So
great. I would like Great War Victory. Victory, Great War.
When did it become Veterans Day?
That's a great question.
Probably
the 60s.
When they changed the holiday.
I do like that Trump is like.
By the way, that brings up another trivia question. What was Memorial Day once called?
Ooh.
Oh, I should know this. Memorial Day.
Decoration Day. Why?
Decoration Day.
And why was it called that?
Because you decorated the graves.
That's right.
That's right.
It used to be
much
May
more
30 every year until
much
they
more
made it the
Catholic.
last Monday of May.
Yep. But I would like to say May 8th coming up, Victory Day for World War II. I would love to do just like VE Day. Can we have VE Day? Just like Europe.
That'd be
what we used to call it.
DWW.
Well, they're both
it's too much.
I mean,
they don't roll off the tongue. I need a better title.
Especially for a guy so
copywriter.
Renowned for nicknames for political opponents. I feel like.
Yeah, we're going to do this. But anyway, big news. Veterans Day is now Victory Day for World War I.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Off you go.
Josh, you're now.
Well, I mean, I'm been a big fan of Scott Jennings, and when we were talking about that MS-13 earlier, he had such a great video talking. Why do these Democrats? They love the worst people ever, and he's just so many conservatives like I never watch CNN except for Scott Jennings, and so Donald Trump goes to Michigan.
Do you think he's going to run
to celebrate 100 days? And he brings Scott Jennings up on the, to speak to the rally. And did you hear what he said there on that?
I didn't watch this.
I'll share it.
Here's the clip, dude.
I have a man here that I don't know, but he's defending me all the time on CNN. And he defends me really well, but he can't go too far because if he goes too far, he'll get fired. I said, "You're amazing. You can take it right to the edge." And he really does a good job. He's not allowed to go any further. He would be off, if he really went totally crazy, which he'd like to do. But I think he's terrific. Scott Jennings. Where's Scott? Where are you, Scott?
I love his voice.
Come here, Scott. This guy, really, I've watched him for years. I don't know him, but he likes Trump. Come here, Scott.
The guy is a stand-up.
This is the end of Scott. No, who cares?
This is the end of Scott.
Scott Jennings, really great.
Thank you. Michigan. We were flying in here today, and I said, look at these farms. I got to get a farm in Michigan, because when you own as many libs as I do, you got to put a place to put them all.
I love that one. Like,
that was a great line.
Do you think he'll run?
He gets up there, gives this talk, and then all of a sudden, like everyone said, he did really good, and it's just started percolating everywhere. Hey, what about Scott Jennings to run for the United States Senate in the seat that's being vacated by Cocaine Mitch, who's not running for re-election anymore?
Yes.
We could have Scott Jennings, the new Republican senator out of Kentucky, and boy, I'll drink a mint julep to that this weekend.
Yeah, heck yeah.
That would be
Kentucky
awesome.
Derby's tomorrow. That's right.
That would be sick.
I would take Jennings over. That would be a
He
massive
would be
upgrade.
outstanding.
Mint julep, dude. I would love. I would. Ooh, I'd love to see Josh in some pinstripes, man. Just Josh in a Kentucky Derby fit would be unreal, dude.
I think
that
Seersucker.
would be so awesome.
We just don't have a big enough budget, folks. We have people that have. Oh, let's just send Josh all over the place. Well, you know what? I'll be in Rome soon enough to add to the great, Loop team coverage.
We're on Pope Watch.
Yes,
that's right. So if you know friends that might be interested in all what's going on, I mean, the whole world is paying attention to this. So get your friends to sign up for the Loop. We have the Pope Watch going on. We're sending out the regular Loop every morning, but then in the evening, a great wrap up, lots of news stories talking about everything, all things Pope Watch, Conclave, you name it.
It's legitimately awesome. I'm not even gassing it up. Like, I'll be honest about our stuff here. One of my favorite things we've done in a long time. So awesome.
Well, we've heard a lot of people, big names in the church, are saying thank you for this coverage. We like it. They themselves are using it. So just go over to Catholic Vote's website. You'll see the Pope Watch sign up. Get that email, sign up. You'll be treated to so many great news and articles. We have people on the ground already in Rome, and I'll be heading there with another coworker here. And so next Wednesday, I'll be reporting from Rome, Lord willing.
We'll get Rome coverage from Josh.
He's going to be eating gelato, like a different gelato flavor every time we see him.
It'll be happy hour in Rome by the time I come on the LOOPCast.
I need Josh sipping wine out of a chalice in a Roman villa, reporting in live to the LOOPCast. You might actually just never come on the LOOPCast again. You might just stay in Rome. Actually, speaking of Brian's through.
He's through the committee.
Brian Birch, got confirmed by the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. So his nomination has been advanced to the full Senate. The Senate themselves might take a long time on this, or they might get it done quickly. Obviously with everything that's going on in Rome, the Republican majority is trying to move on this sooner. So there is a decent chance he actually could get confirmed even next week. So you never know. It would be great. It would send a great message if the senators would say, you know what, the U.S. Vatican relations are a priority, and that's the whole point of the op-ed that Steve Cortez and I co-wrote. We put it in the Washington Times. We said, the Catholic Church is basically was the fountain of Western civilization. It created it, it cultivated it, and the United States is a culmination of Western civilization. And you have so many of these countries in Europe that are completely betraying their legacy. They're becoming effectively atheists. They're letting the Muslims take over. But the United States and the Vatican have this opportunity to have a partnership once again, like they did with John Paul and Reagan in the 80s, to really move the needle and to be a beacon of truth for the world. And Brian Birch could be right at the head of that. No one better qualified for that job. So,
Josh, did you see that a clip from the Conclave movie is going viral for the wrong reasons?
Yes.
Did I see what now?
There's a clip from the Conclave movie that's going viral for the not intended reasons.
I did not hear about this. No.
There's a deliberation between the cardinals when they're in the Sistine Chapel, and the one guy got up, and I can't play it because it's in a different language, and then I think it eventually switches to English. He basically was like, "We have what you said, like we have bishops basically letting Muslims come in and slaughter their people. They're not serious about doctrine. They're not this and that." And it was supposed to be like, oh, this is kind of like the hard line.
He's supposed to be the bad guy.
Yeah. And then it went mega, and everyone's like, this guy gets it on Twitter. Like, this is like base.
What about this guy?
Yeah, exactly.
Again, it's like what you said before, like Hollywood, like let's come up with the villain. And
the villain conservative.
Swanson, and Alex P. Keaton, and everyone's like, yeah, that's how we like that actually.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And we were talking before the show about the Ron Swanson concept of liberals create a show with the intent of making a caricature of someone to make fun of that people are going to think is ridiculous, and then people love him and actually like, I relate to this guy more than anyone else in the show. It's like Ron Swanson's perfect embodiment of that. All right, well, hey, guess what? I have a fun one. I've literally been waiting all show for this one. So according to anonymous sources, people have been clamoring, direct quote, for Kamala Harris back in public life. Okay. Quote, there is a clamoring for her voice right now. said a former Harris senior advisor who was granted anonymity to
Oh,
speak
of
candidly.
course. The anonymous source.
You speak candidly because you're anonymous. Wow, how brave.
Yeah, wow.
Quote, no one can better prosecute the case while inspiring a call to action than the former vice president. And guess what? The people got what they were clamoring for. Kamala Harris did come out and speak to the people. Truly unbelievable clip. Please tell me it's in here. No, so Tim Walz is also in public. Oh, is it on the next page? Oh, great.
Yeah, you got it. It's still here.
I mean,
you got to hear this.
Unreal clip from the Emerge Summit. It's our first public speaking event since losing. Here we go.
In fact, please allow me, friends, to digress for a moment. Okay. It's kind of dark in here, but I'm asking for a show of hands. Who saw that video from a couple of weeks ago? The one of the elephants at the San Diego Zoo during the earthquake? Google it if you've not seen it. So that scene has been on my mind. Everybody's asking me, what you've been thinking about these days? Well, so in the video, for those who haven't seen it, here those elephants were. And as soon as they felt the earth shaking beneath their feet, they got in a circle and stood next to each other to protect the most vulnerable. Think about it. What a powerful metaphor.
I mean,
well,
I gotta say, is there anyone that you know that is so enamored with their own abilities who's just not that good at all?
That isn't good at something.
It's just like, so I'm in awe of how awesome I am. Like, girl.
Then so there's another element to this. Caroline Leavitt in the next day press conference said we highly encourage with the Trump campaign for Kamala Harris to do more speaking engagements. So that wasn't the only thing. Tim Walz also back in the limelight a little bit.
Oh, he's back.
He
ran the pick six.
Yeah, he ran the pick six. So clamoring for Kamala, we get Tim Walz too. He said that he was selected for the ticket because he could speak in white guy code. Here's that clip.
I knew I was on the ticket. I would argue because we did a lot of amazing progressive things in Minnesota that improved people's lives. But I also was on the ticket, quite honestly, because I could code talk to white guys watching football, fixing their truck, doing that I could put them at ease. I was the permission structure to say, look, you can do this and vote for this. And you look across those swing states, with the exception of Minnesota.
First of all, Minnesota was not a swing state. If you manage to lose,
nothing about this is right. Nothing about this is right. He gave this at the Harvard Kennedy School Institute of Politics. He thought so little of the average American voter that he could talk in white guy code.
I do not miss this.
With the jazz hands to the average white American voter in the Midwest.
Oh my gosh. Remember the videos of him trying to go hunting and he didn't know what to do with the gun? And it was just so cringe. It was that hello, fellow kids.
Guys, we weren't hard enough on Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. I mean, for all the bungles, the crazy policies, the lack thereof of policies, both of them just do not. They are the worst. This might be the worst ticket ever put up. Josh, you can speak history to this. None of it made sense. They spent over $1 billion on a campaign that was a complete flop.
Here's the thing.
This guy was the white guy coder for the least masculine man I've ever seen.
I know. It was like Kamala Harris was worried about being overstaged by Josh Shapiro. And because we have too many anti-Semites in our party, they picked me instead. And why don't you say it like it is? I mean, that's what would be the real truth.
Now, I did see something interesting about Shapiro. He came into the meetings about being vice president and basically started demanding things from them. Some are speculating intentionally to get dropped. He's like, if I do this, I need X, Y, and Z, knowing they were ridiculous requests so that he would not be
ridiculous, but maybe difficult requests.
Difficult. Yeah, no doubt. I mean, extreme requests.
Maybe he was just making sure that the campaign didn't have their head in their arse. But the thing is, here's the thing. Kamala Harris, absolutely DEI candidate. That's why she got on the ticket with Joe Biden. When Joe Biden should have picked someone like a Gretchen Whitmer, would have been much more qualified, even though I disagree with her and she's horrible. And so she was terrible, and then picks Tim walls. I mean, like this was like the dunderhead pick. And you think to yourselves, how on God's green earth did they come within 2 percentage points of becoming the next president, vice president of the United States? How was this not like a 60-40 beating? Okay, we're more partisan, maybe
So scary.
maybe 55-45, but it was like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it was Trump won. Trump won the electoral and popular vote, but how is it this close? That just, again, it's a reminder. Now, all the polls that are coming out, all the different media polls, there's a public approval for Trump is starting to dip. Then they ask people, oh, by the way, if you had to do it over again, who would you vote for? Trump.
Yeah. Well, Victor Davis Hanson did a good video on that because now they're trying to roll out these polls saying that approval's down for him and people are scared, even though the job reports came back very positive.
It was better than expected. That's true.
Better than expected. And the big poll that they're all pointing to saying that his approval rating so low, they only asked, I think, like 37% of Republicans.
Right. It was a poll that asked 2,000. It was 2,000 people were surveyed, and 890 of them were Trump voters. We don't even know if they were all Republicans. So it's like it.
Shocker.
I think the polling. I don't think the polling is actually off too much. I think.
Why would you? But why would you not ask Trump voters, and then that be an accurate sample? Like if you wanted to get.
When you're talking about if you're talking about the public approval of a president, you're not just including you're not necessarily weighing only the electorate that elected him. You're doing it of the entire country. So you're trying to compare apples to apples. So like when they did after he won the election, and the weeks and months going into it, and in the first let's say month or so of his presidency, his numbers were going up amongst the general population. Not just the people who voted for him. And so he was having a higher approval. He was like, wow, Trump has a higher approval rating than he's ever had in the entire first term. Mm-hmm. And so, so you're doing a public opinion poll of the public, not just of the electorate that voted, because that's a smaller number. It's it's not nothing, but so these polls, I mean, I hear too much poll splitting. It's not really problematic in terms of the polls. So he has seen a little bit of a slip, not a massive slide, not a massive downgrade, but he's had a little bit of a slip in his public approval rating. And that's fine. I mean, I would expect it to happen. You're slapping all these tariffs on and you're doing a lot of stuff. And the MS-13 stuff for the first day or two sounded like it was bad. And he's arresting judges before the truth finally catches up. People are like, oh, the guy sounded like he was horrible. Oh, the judge harbored a terrorist. So then the numbers start to kind of, level off a little bit and float back up, but it's par for the course.
Okay. Well, Josh's thoughts. Always appreciate them. Well, hey, great show. If you want to help us out, go ahead. I saw a bunch of Apple podcast reviews to get us away from the mark of the beast.
Thank you.
Shout out to, I saw some people say, specifically I'm here, no more mark of the beast. Shout out to you guys. If you want to keep the fuel going, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, keep those reviews coming in. Appreciate those.
See, what Janet's going to do is delete all the positive comments you had before, so it slides back to 666, so you can make another call and get another wave of good comments.
Listen. There's all kinds of ways to do it. There's all kinds of ways to game the system, but we appreciate all the support, guys. If you want to check out Erica's video, it's fantastic. It was about Father James Martin's interview with Ross Douthat, we joked about in the beginning. Please go check that out if you can't. It was fantastic, and we want to keep making content like that. So if you want to see more of that and support us, go subscribe to the YouTube. That's where that's going to be housed mostly, and subscribe. It's a huge marker of success, something we're really trying to make happen here. So if you want to help us out, go ahead and subscribe on YouTube. Join the Champions Club. It's the best way to support us. CatholicVote.org/champions is where you can do that. Thank you to all of our champions listening today. If you want to email me questions, I love the questions. We've had some great ones we can always answer on the show. LOOPCast@CatholicVote.org is where you can do that. But have a fantastic weekend and pray for us. St. Thomas More, St. Fidelis, Our Lady of Guadalupe, pray for us. And we'll see you